The PFL could be one wrong move away from collapse.
What they're doing makes no sense to me. Their business strategy.
The long-promised second force in MMA, the PFL, emerged from the ashes of the World Series of Fighting in 2018, promising to revolutionize MMA as we know it. It pitched itself as a fighter-first league, and at some point it had us convinced that they would bring good changes for the sport. The organization talked a big game at first, but so far, it has little to show for it.
The bottom line is, though, is that they have a lot of top-level fighters that
are not fighting.
Why is that?
With stars going missing and fighters complaining about bookings, the cracks in MMA's B League are becoming impossible to ignore. But before the missteps, PFL had a vision worth watching. From the fallout of the World Series of Fighting, the PFL emerged as a bold new promotion. It had new ideas that could influence the sport for better. Its innovative season format presented a new approach to how fans watch MMA, similar to the NFL or the Champions League, with seasons, playoffs, and champions. Fighters earn points for wins and bonus points for finishes, incentivizing action over caution.
One of the biggest differences between the PFL and other MMA leagues is that it runs on a point system, meaning fighters have to actually earn their way to a title fight by earning points inside the cage and not just with the matchmaker. A win is worth 3 points, a loss is worth 0. Bonus points are awarded based on when a fight finishes. A first round finish earns 3 extra points, a second round finish earns 2 extra points, and a third round finish earns 1 extra point.
In MMA, where the line between professional fighting and entertainment can get blurred, the promotion tried to add a clear-cut formula to the sport. The PFL favored merit over name value, with a meritocratic rating system where performance and skill really mattered. The promotion's pay structure was also a breath of fresh air. Champions, no matter the weight class or popularity, walked away with a guaranteed $1 million prize. For a time there, the organization had us convinced that it might actually change the game.
But I also think that now that the money's gotten better, you're going to start seeing athletes that would have went to football and baseball and basketball, they're going to stop doing that and saying, hey, these guys are making this much money, let me try and go over there.
Even notable fighters like Rory McDonald were moving to the PFL at the time. The possibility of finally having an organization rivaling the UFC's dominance was starting to feel real.
This world is big enough for 2 leading companies. They were the first leader, but make no mistake, they ain't gonna be the only leader.
However, as some time went by, the organization led by venture capitalist and esports entrepreneur Don Davis felt like it was taking in more than it could handle. After all, the PFL was all over the place with MMA novelties. Global expansion plans, ridiculously costly contracts, flashy tech gimmicks, the PFL was doing everything except selling fights. It was clear that the promotion was trying to grow quickly, but managing an esports brand is not the same as leading an MMA organization that handles hundreds of fighters, sells tickets, and delivers compelling matchups every few weeks. Don Davis has always been quick to try and create a rivalry with the UFC, but the foundation he built to challenge one of the biggest sports organizations in the world was shaky from the start.
So that first step is PFL has a sports season format, and PFL is much more global with the international leagues. So we're doing 2 things that the UFC isn't doing.
The PFL had ambition, no doubt, but they've been around nearly a decade now, and while the business decisions keep getting more outlandish, the conversation around the PFL as a top-tier organization is moving in the opposite direction of what Don Davis promised.
It's just not truthful when you call yourselves co-leaders of the sport. It's not truthful. Don Davis came out the other day and said that they're a billion-dollar organization. It's not truthful. You got to be truthful in this sport because, for one, the MMA fans alone will call you out. You can't BS them. You can't.
Over time, the cracks really started to show. To give credit where it's due, the PFL managed to get a pretty decent roster. Albeit still top-heavy, they worked with some of the most well-known athletes in the world, including Ngannou, Kayla Harrison, as well as rising stars like Cedric Doumbé and Patchy Mix.
We should have a little bit of a conversation about the PFL. Boy, they're going for it. They're going for it. I've been a skeptic of any player outside of the UFC in the current space, just by virtue of how dominant the market position is for UFC. And it should be clear, as good as this deal is for Francis, and it is good, it is by no means a guarantee of success for PFL. For Francis, it depends what he really wants and really gets out of it. That's harder to say, but there are plenty of ways this doesn't go well for PFL. They are risking it big time. I'll come back to that in a second.
On top of that, Well-known names in the sport like Rory McDonald, Anthony Pettis, and Jake Shields added veteran credibility to the organization. But even with a decent talent pool, the PFL has yet to deliver interesting fights and storylines.
It's a problem when you sit here and you be like, what is the greatest rivalry in PFL history? What is the greatest story in PFL history? Who's the biggest star in PFL history? Who's the biggest personality that they built from the ground up in PFL history? They've been around a long time now, long enough. I think it's 7 or so years since taking over WSOF. The fact that those don't come off the top of the dome are a problem.
Founder Don Davis loves to boast about his company as a near-equal product to the UFC, but let's be real, how would he even know?
Cole, what is Don's favorite all-time MMA fight? So Don, you have a night out, you go home, and you're just like, man, I want to watch a fight. What's the first fight you're going to find?
So people who are doctors don't watch medical shows. People who are lawyers don't watch legal shows on TV. I'm aware of everything that's going on.
We've seen smaller organizations back in the 2000s like Strikeforce and the WEC do well with a lot less than the PFL had. But the difference is, Fedor Emelianenko and Nate Diaz were fighting regularly for Strikeforce, while in the PFL, Ngannou has less than 3 minutes inside the cage. And without any answers, fans are left to build their own conclusions. Is the PFL in financial freefall? What's actually going on with the promotion supposed to co-lead the sport?
I think when you're losing as much money as they are, fucking go for it. Fucking throw the kitchen sink at it. These guys, this guy just came out recently and said, you know, we're going to spend more money than they did on the Sphere. Well, that sounds fucking brilliant. How many tickets are you going to sell? Yeah, they're not very bright. So if I were them, I would do it. Listen, it's all fair. Knock yourself out. They're drowning. They suck. I mean, they're not good at what they do. So I guess you would just keep trying anything you can to make something stick.
Whatever the reason, the results are the same. Fighters are frustrated, fans are confused, and the league's momentum is slipping. The answer might lie in the organization's most ambitious and reckless move yet. In November 2023, the PFL finalized the merger with Bellator, a deal valued at $100 million. And more than just removing Bellator from the picture, the PFL had actually incorporated its roster, including several high-profile champions. With Bellator out, the path was clear for the PFL to claim its spot as the second-best league in the world. It was the perfect chance to step up. But instead, it might have been the organization's biggest blunder yet. On paper, the PFL now had the second-best roster in the sport, but it soon became clear that the league had no idea how to manage it.
But Bellator fighters get paid also more than the PFL guys. So now they have to cut because they're not making a lot of money. So.
But I thought PFL was backed by a lot of money. Last I heard, Kevin Hart invested in it.
Yeah, what was the point of merging then if they didn't have money, or what's the point not having the best fighters fight?
I think they want to have to be the number 2. After UFC, they want to be number 2. So they're now number 2, I guess. But I don't hear them making any money.
The organization found itself with a bloated roster, with elite and costly fighters like Patchy Mix, Chris Cyborg, Johnny Eblen, and AJ McKee joining the brand. And then, no fights. It's like the promotion bought a few Ferraris, but couldn't afford gas.
Second, what was the point of acquiring that roster and making a big to-do about it if you cannot leverage the existing talent that you have? Numerous fighters who were acquired from Bellator in the last 18 months have been very, very clear that they have not been able to get fights on a consistent basis in order to advance their careers.
While UFC champions average 2 to 3 fights a year, many of PFL's most talented athletes spent the entirety of 2024 without any action. Patchy Mix, one of Bellator's brightest stars, soon began to voice his concerns.
Again, until April or May, that's close to a year, so the momentum is hard to attain in this game, but there's no doubt in my mind that I just need to have the fights to stay active. If they don't want to let me fight, then release me, and in 365 days, I will be the UFC champion. I will take out whoever I have to take out in order to be the champion of the UFC. If they don't want to let me fight, then release me.
If the PFL finalized a multi-million-dollar deal, taking over the entirety of Bellator without immediate plans to monetize it, then what was the point? All of a sudden, the organization's original season format became watered down. The talent is now scattered between the PFL events and Bellator, which operates just like the UFC. And even the prize money for champions got cut in half this year.
I also am not someone who thinks that you should advance into a playoff format of any sport and run deep into it and go backwards in pay. And unfortunately, like the last few years, the situation is as my competition increases and I move into the 4-man playoff instead of the 8-man that it used to be, which is harder to do, in my opinion. The pay has been reduced each year pretty significantly.
The organization was now facing an identity crisis. What once made the PFL unique, its season format, its merit-based system, the $1 million prize, was slipping away.
And big names, and the biggest names on the PFL roster are unhappy right now.
Instead of standing apart, it started to look like a watered-down version of the UFC without the consistency or the star power to keep fans invested. And with the prize money shrinking, even fighters began to question whether the risk was worth it.
Well, basically, they're trying to find ways to make this thing work. Not a lot of those fighters from Bellator that are making good money want to go fight 4 fights in a year in a tournament series every 6 months. They don't want to do that and then have a long layoff from November to March. They don't start their tournament series again until March. That's a long time with no fights. So those fighters don't want to do that. Also, if you're taking a look at those guys that are the top-notch guys, they want to fight the best guys. The best guys in the PFL in their tournament series are not the best guys. And I'll give you an example. And this is, I'm not trying to knock the PFL, and I'm not trying to say anything about the fighters that won the tournament. But the ones that won the tournament, that came from Bellator, those guys were prelim fighters, and now they're millionaires.
The PFL needed something or someone to spark real interest again. And while they had the most popular heavyweight on the planet on their roster, what he cost for the organization could be its downfall. With a chance of making millions in boxing hovering around, Francis Ngannou rejected Dana White's offer, arguing that the deal would have locked him into restrictive terms. To the surprise of everyone, Ngannou eventually landed in the PFL. It looked like a win-win scenario. The PFL now had the biggest heavyweight star in the world, and Francis found a promotion willing to give him what the UFC would not: equity, an executive role, and the freedom to box while still competing in MMA.
When you give another fighter that much power, when you give a fighter that much power over your promotion and how you run it, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
To fight for the PFL, Ngannou would make north of $6 million per fight, while also guaranteeing his opponent would make at least $1 million as well. On top of that, he was given an executive role as chairman of PFL Africa, plus equity in the company and a seat on its advisory board.
A 2 or 3 fight deal that offers you that in MMA is basically unheard of. I mean, Brock's probably gotten something like that, and even really not that. Not that much money, plus that much flexibility, plus that much, I'm going to call it front office / corporate involvement, integration, and otherwise having a say. This contract is highly unique, frankly historic in certain ways, and for Francis, a clear home run.
On top of signing a contract worth nearly 8 times more than what he was making in the UFC, Francis also got a free pass to chase boxing paydays. He ultimately went the boxing route, making over $10 million per fight in the 2 bouts against Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. From being lowballed by the UFC, Francis was out of nowhere, sharing the ring with one of the highest paid athletes in combat sports.
And at that time, everybody was looking at me as a fool to even thinking of fighting Tyson Fury. And today, it's happening.
Everything turned out great for Ngannou in boxing, at least financially. Meanwhile, the PFL was left empty-handed, standing on the sidelines while their biggest star was cashing checks somewhere else. And given how much it cost to have him fighting, maybe it was for the better. Nonetheless, nearly 2 years after signing with the organization, the day for his debut would finally come.
Is Francis Ngannou right where I live? Let's talk about Problema, a Brazilian.
The PFL stacked the card like never before, turning it into a rare pay-per-view event titled Battle of the Giants. Alongside Ngannou's long-awaited heavyweight title fight, they added Chris Cyborg in a women's title bout, a middleweight championship clash, and even Cedric Doumbé to round out the spectacle. For the promotion, this was billed as the biggest card in its history, the moment that would have finally justified the Ngannou gamble.
You'll see Francis now in 2024 in PFL against La Problema, and what I believe is going to be the fight I'm looking forward to the most in the heavyweight division of all of MMA.
The PFL was betting the house on this event. Francis made quick work of the Brazilian Renan Ferreira, and just like that, the promotion finally had its heavyweight champion. Don Davis claimed it was a huge success, arguing that the PFL had the best card of the year.
This event, by our research, beat every viewership number of every UFC event this year and was very, very close to Ring of Fire, which, you know, it's Ring of Fire. I mean, it's the biggest boxing event in 5 years. So which was really our benchmark, right? Because Ring of Fire is a Saudi event. Ring of Fire is our same time. And Ring of Fire was the biggest combat sport event, call it this year. And we were within, we were 40% bigger than some, 20% smaller than some, but overall the same global viewership metrics of Ring of Fire.
However, according to reports after the fight, the numbers were awful. The organization spent a total of $10 million on the main event alone, so while having Francis was a statement of ambition, financially it was a disaster. The PFL shelled out 8 figures for a single night, only to bring in a fraction of that in return. For all the hype, the numbers painted a grim picture. The most expensive signing in company history had turned into a massive loss on the balance sheet.
So when he says things like, you know, oh, we've got the best card of the year, an investor wouldn't know any different. An investor will be impressed by that. MMA fans are not impressed by that because they know the truth. They know that that wasn't the best card of the year. Was it the best PFL card of the year? Absolutely. Was it the best MMA card of the year? Absolutely not. And they will call BS on that, and they will feel offended, and they will feel slighted, and they will feel like, no, I don't want to give you my money because this annoys me.
The Ngannou experiment was supposed to be the PFL's breakthrough moment. Instead, it exposed just how fragile its business model really was. Because if even the biggest heavyweight in the world couldn't move the needle, what did that say about the future of the promotion itself? The PFL finds itself facing an uncomfortable truth. The organization that promised to revolutionize MMA is at a make-or-break moment. It had everything to make it work: name value, financial backing, and a roster stacked with world-class talent. But now, with years in the making, the PFL has still failed to deliver the most important thing: fan interest. Strikeforce had epic rivalries like Alvarez and Chandler. Bellator had stars like MVP and world-caliber champions like Douglas Lima. The WEC had epic fighters like Jose Aldo and Anthony Pettis, and even Invicta had emerging talent like Rose Namajunas and Chris Cyborg. The PFL, on the other hand, hasn't managed to create those same organic interests. Instead of producing rivalries or homegrown icons, the league resorted to throwing money at every problem, even if at its own expense. If things don't turn around for the best, the promotion could reach a point of no return. Whether the PFL can turn things around remains to be seen, but for now, the second force in MMA looks more like a sinking ship than a rising tide. And another fighter who completely vanished after fighting for the PFL is Cedric Doumbé. To find out what's going on with the once promising French MMA star, check out this video next. Thanks for watching.